Big weekend ahead. I'm really pumped for this weekend of racing. Gino here alongside my good friend Barry Spears. Barry, would you say this weekend between Sovereignty and Nisos, and who knows how they perform this weekend, but going into the weekend, probably two of the top 5 horses in training in the U.S. on different coasts?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, having them come back into the fold it might make it interesting going forward, especially going towards the Breeders' Cup and how they fit in, whether they're going to try to be like a mile or in the dirt
Yeah.
mile or in the classic. Like I can see a horse like Nisos going to the mile instead of the classic. But we'll
This
see.
this
I
weekend
mean,
is like a huge test for him, right? In the race that we're going to talk
absolutely.
about, because he hasn't gone that far yet. He's never been more than a mile, and he'll have a really good stepping stone in the San Diego to see if he can go a mile and a 16th and try to set himself up for the Pacific Classic next. And then you can really see, is he that classic horse? If not, they could cut him back to the dirt mile or even the sprint, right? He ran really well, going, 7 furlongs in that really strong Churchill Downs race. So that's fun. Out at Saratoga, we've got Sovereignty coming back, small field, but Sovereignty with a couple legitimate competitors in that race, Barry. And thing we've noted about Bill Mott through the years too, he points his horses to the big races. And I think I could see Sovereignty trying to point towards the Travers to peak again, and maybe not necessarily being 100% ready to rock and roll this weekend. Any quick thought on the Jim Dandy in that little field that we have before we get into Del Mar?
Yeah, it's a tough race because the pace scenario doesn't really set up that well for Sovereignty. I
No.
think Moplex causes a lot of problems, but
Oh, yeah.
there's always the factor that Sovereignty could just be playing flat out better than those horses and
And he
might win
showed a
anyway.
little more tactical speed in the Belmont last time out. So
Yeah, he's a little
if
closer.
that's something that he can do as he's getting older, that makes him even scarier if that's part of his repertoire, if he can sit a little closer. So Saratoga has the Jim Dandy this weekend, but our focus is going to be at Del Mar, and we'll take a look at the late pick 5 sequence, starting with the grade 2, starting with the race number 7 right before the San Diego. We'll have 2 graded stakes races in the mix. And Barry, just to give Del Mar a little bit of credit, they have had a fantastic start to the meet as far as big fields, big prices, and then quality as well as the quantity with the racing this weekend. A couple of the graded stakes that you and I get to talk about with Nisos. You have horses shipping in like Hall of Fame, who's now coming into the McCarthy barn. And they got a couple nice shippers in the Bing Crosby as well. It's just the first couple weeks, Del Mar has definitely been the bigger fields, the real track that you want to play. They don't have to worry about the rain a lot of the times too. So hopefully it can sustain, but for a few weeks so far, really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, excellent out there. Everything has been tip top. Probably the best racing we've seen all year, to be honest with you, from
Yeah.
any track. So I expect that to continue towards the end of the meet too. So yeah, it's definitely the place to be at this point.
As we look at the Saturday card too, I think there are 11 races on Saturday. 2 of them are fields of 7. Everything else is like 10 and above. So even, there's just not really very many short fields again, even with the graded stakes races coming up this weekend. I want to let all of you know about one of the new features that Daily Racing Form has. It's the DRF AI that really helps you, especially if you're like a newer bettor, if you have questions about a particular track. Maybe you're trying to put together a ticket kind of quickly, or maybe you don't have a whole lot of time when you're doing your handicapping. This will really help you. You can take it to a whole bunch of different levels. I went through the other day, just kind of curious to see what, how deep it would go, or like how much it would, really help me. And I mean, I got a bunch of questions through that I think would be really helpful. So try it out, test it out, see if it works for you. I know, Barry, you've been looking at it, and we've been
Oh yeah.
having folks tweak it a little bit too. So I'm excited because I think it's really helpful. Chat.drf.com. Check that thing out. It's free all throughout Saratoga. So Saturday, if you're playing Saratoga, Del Mar, give it a look. Chat.drf.com. Let's jump into Saturday. At Del Mar, we're looking at the Daily Racing Form past performances and the Formulator past performances, which are part of the All Access plan. Barry, We kick things off with a fun 2-year-old maiden race going a mile on the turf. These are 2-year-old fillies going a mile on the turf course here. Think a couple of the major players that we want to start out with just from the talking. The 6 Got the Ring, has experience. So in a race like this where horses don't have a whole lot of experience, you have a lot of first-time starters, it's just a major positive to see that this gal got out of the gate. She showed speed. She was okay on the grass. And when you look at her pedigree, you could see that while her dam wasn't necessarily a horse who uh won, like raced on the grass, she was pretty solid on the synthetic. She never tried it, and this is the first full. So there's not like an overwhelming ton of turf pedigree there, but she's solid. The 8 is the horse that has more of the pedigree
Yeah.
in this race, right, Barry? Because this is the horse whose dam won on the grass. So that's solid. That checks your little box. But then you take a look at the direct siblings, and you can see sources that have sibling to Johannes, who's one of the better turf horses in training, and I think is going to be making his return to the races in the 4-star Dave. He was going to run in the Eddie Reed on Sunday, but grade 1 and more money. I think just kind of looking at the lay of the land and thinking, I'll be a pretty big player in that race. They're going to try to run over at Saratoga. And not only just Johannes Berry, also C Dancer is a multiple winner on the turf, and C Runner is another winner on the turf who was involved in stakes races, stakes place in the juvenile fillies turf. So all 3 siblings won on the grass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this horse is going to attract a lot of the attention,
Yep.
despite what the morning line says.
7-2. I'm thinking at first click or like less. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
wouldn't shock
I
me at
would
all.
say less. I would imagine that horse opens up as the favorite, probably about 5-2 ish, maybe 3-1. But yeah, I think that horse will take all the attention. I mean, as far as this kind of race goes, horses like that are more likely to win. But his stablemate, the 9, is interesting to me as well. Um, more for the fact that this horse has a race
Sure.
under her belt, and the dam won 550K and change on the turf.
Yeah, this was a very nice animal on the grass, Cordiality. And look, she was an 8-time winner on the turf. She just fired some big races, and this is the first full. And I agree with you, Barry, especially because they're both Yakteen horses too. There's something that just feels sneaky about Remember April in here, because the other Yakteen runner is going to take all of the support. And Remember April is a horse that they were able to sneak by in a maiden 50, a horse who's actually a Kentucky bred, but in one of those weird like California sired races. So was able to get in a Calbred race, got a little action that day, didn't really start running till late after a slowish start. Like, this horse is in the mix for me too. I completely agree with you. I just think she's really sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that they would want to run this horse on the turf rather than the dirt. I think they really wanted to get some experience, or maybe
A little
Mr.
fitness.
Yak Team, yeah, wanted this horse to get a little bit of time on the track to kind of figure things out a little bit. And getting on the turf is probably what they wanted all along. This is their shot. I mean, why not in a race where there's really no form at all?
No standout. And what makes this a little trickier for me when I'm handicapping a race like this long on the turf, the morning workouts that I can watch on First TV, they're a little bit less relevant. Not like I don't, if I see a horse working well, that's great, right? But when a horse is working short on the dirt and now they're going to be going long on the turf, sometimes they don't look very good in those workouts in the mornings, and then they look a lot better going long on the turf. So it's even difficult sometimes to take much out of the morning workouts with horses like this on a different surface and going longer. It's a really tricky way to start the pick 5 with a
Yeah,
race like this, where you have
yeah.
like no form at all.
It's tough because, you try not to waste your spread,
Right
so
away.
early, but it's almost like you have to in this
I
spot
know.
because you just don't know enough or seen enough from these horses to figure out who might fire, who might not, unless you got some inside information. But even that is always a crapshoot as well.
Couple others that at least look somewhat good on paper to me, or there's some things to like about. You've got the 2 Kizazi, who can be forwardly placed, and Kizazi has actually seemed to improve in the morning. So if you're watching this horse's workouts in the mornings, the recent one looked like this horse is perked up, and she's at least been forward in a race. So you expect her to be probably close to the lead in here early on. The 3, it's one of those like, okay, you look at first glance and you go, okay, there's a little bit of turf pedigree here, just overall, with the dam being classic joy, kitten's joy. And this barn is pretty good with first time starters, but not really horses going long, right? Like, you can look at the formulator statistics here and you can see with first time starters, barn 12% over the last 5 years. Solid. But when you really go a little bit deeper and you see the distance and you add that into the mix and throw it on a route, you can see that they don't really do this often. They've only had 3 horses go long. So I'm kind of hemming and hawing a little bit with Forliness Berry, because I know the barn can get horses ready, but I don't know if this is a horse that's long on the turf in particular. So I'm a little back.
The pedigree suggests that this horse should be able to handle
Right?
it, but I mean, again, it's just a total crapshoot sometimes.
Breeding wise, if you were just blindly looking at the Smart Strike on the top side, the Kitten's Joy on the bottom side, you're thinking turf all day with this
Thumbs
horse,
up.
right? So that's like, all of these horses are usable. I mean, they have 5. Olivia,
Yeah, that's who I kind of
right?
like a little bit, because
She's bred
Hansen
well.
gets them ready.
Exactly.
Yeah, Hansen gets them ready. She's bred well enough in a race like this, because there's not really much pedigree. If you go through all of them, you got the super pedigree in the 8,
And
but
then
everybody
everybody
else is kind
else,
of the same.
completely agree. Like, the 5 is in the mix for me too. So I know exactly how you pointed it out. You don't want to spread in the first leg of the pick 5, but this race is so difficult not to. I mean, the 7 was one of those horses that did, like, I did the because on paper, connections wise, you want to play this horse, but she's the first foal out of a dam who was 0 for 3 on the turf, and the morning works were really green. The one on July 19th, this horse hopped at the start, was like swerving, didn't look great. But then I'm like, maybe this is just a horse that wants to go long on the grass. So you go back and forth. Not an easy race. We both expect the 8 to take some money. And we both will be using the Yak Teen horses, the 8 and the 9, who both, the 9 could be the sneakier one, showing you some value. The 6 is logical. Got the ring, probably a horse that you have to use just because of that proven speed. We both think the 5 is another one that's interesting with the pedigree. Tricky race to start, Barry. Anything else you want to mention here?
No, I think we covered it, but it's a tough one. If you can pinpoint a horse there to single or something,
right?
Please do, because
do it. Give yourself the advantage.
Exactly.
And even if you don't, like, you come back, you can play a pick 4 afterwards. But if you have a strong opinion, see if you can get it home right away here in race number 7. As we turn the page to the Grade 2 San Diego, Nisos has been awesome every time he's been out on the racetrack. Like, we can't really knock him as a horse, but we look at his form and we can see that he's had a tough time staying on the track. He has that big gap where he was off from February of 2024 to May of 2025. When he won the Bob Lewis and he wins by 7 lengths and he earns a 105 buyer, he's at the top of that division right there of the 3-year-olds at that moment. And then we don't see him for almost a year and a half. He was sort of out of sight, out of mind. Comes back in a tough race. I mean, that Churchill Downs on May 3rd, on paper, it looked like it was one of the more difficult races that we'd seen in a while. And then it didn't get graded based on like speed figures all that high, but it's come back strong because Mindframe was the winner and he comes back to win the Stephen Foster next out. Banishing was in there. Since that race, he went in the blame, and that's just a little too long for him. Then he cuts back and he runs second and he wins a stakes race. You've got Bookham Dano. He's won twice since that race. He just earned a 111 buyer speed figure when he won the Vanderbilt. And poor Mulligan, he hasn't done anything wrong, but he's just run second twice to Bookham Dano. Like, it probably wins in a lot of other spots with those same exact speed figures of 104 and 106. So the top of this race was really, really strong. Nisos just misses, and then he comes back in a really soft spot. It's just a field of 4 in the triple bend. So I can't knock his form overall, Barry. But what I can say for a horse that's a short price, if for us as gamblers, you want to poke holes, he has never gone more than a mile. So if you're looking at this race and you're saying, how does he get beat in a race like this? It's maybe that he hasn't gone this far. And I could see him getting caught up maybe with some of these other horses early. That would probably be how he loses. But my counter to that would be his next door, Miramati, is his stablemate. So I imagine Flavion's going to try really hard to take him back, sit off Miramati, not get caught up with him, because that's probably what would do Nisos in, just battling early on and not having enough late.
Well, from where I'm sitting, he's by far the fastest horse in this race.
And you think he maybe just goes?
It's possible. He just might be naturally faster than Miramati anyway.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The ideal trip would be to use Miramati as a target.
Because they're trying. Seems almost like they're trying to teach Nisos on the way to get to the Classic, right?
Right.
Use this to then the Pacific Classic and then the Breeders' Cup. But I agree with you. Like, this is a Pratt and a Baffert thing sometimes, where they just put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, and it could work out that way, but we'll see. I mean, this race definitely has a potential just to be kind of like a walkover. If Nisos gets to the lead in front of Miramati, he's just going to be able to walk the dog.
If he plays blocker for him too, we've seen the Baffert horses do that, right? Like if Nisos can get out front and then Miramati can just sit behind him and help him out a little bit, and they run 1-2 like all the way around. That's that's something that's a possibility.
But going forward, I think it just leaves more question marks, because if that horse gets a trip like this, really not going to be able to tell if he can get
you're right.
the distance like you want. I mean, anybody can do it if they're going a 50 half
on the right.
They're only running half the race. It's not like they're running full speed the whole race. If they're really going slow and like literally like walking to the half and it's 50 and change, they're never going to beat them. But when it's not going to tell us anything about him going forward other than he was better than the horses in this race.
Yeah.
And it'll leave more questions than answers. But I mean, just the way it works out, I think the idea and the intent would be to use Miramati as a
sit third,
as a target. Yeah.
Let Miramati go, and maybe Midnight Mammoth, who's got a little speed. We could go through a lot of this field. I mean, a lot of them want to sit close. Tarantino and Judge Miller.
Hall of Fame is interesting, though.
That's my guy, right?
Because of the fact that he's been running with better horses.
Yep.
And
cutting back, he's probably going to be a little bit. He won't be caught up with Nisos or Miramati. I think he's going to be sitting and maybe finishing a little bit.
Right. And that might be the winning move. But, if Nisos gets the jump, I gather he's going to be really hard to pass. But top to bottom, Hall of Fame's been running with better horses. And Nisos ran in that loaded Churchill Downs. But other than that, everybody's kind of, the fields were good, but I don't think they were better than what Hall of Fame was seeing down in Louisiana.
No.
But coming out of that race, he might take to the West Coast a little bit better, different training regimen, what have you. He's been out there for about a month.
Yeah.
So, I would expect maybe a little bit of improvement here, especially with the timing of his last race to now. He's got freshened up a little bit, been out on the West Coast. It wouldn't surprise me if that horse runs really well, but I still don't think he could get Nisos.
Yeah,
fast.
I like this horse a lot as a horse, and I've always been a fan of his. And in particular, this year, I've been waiting for him to have one of those big wins against a group, a good horse or a group like this. And he's, I would say, probably been a little disappointing in his last couple races, even still running like a 106 buyer in that New Orleans, in the Ali Sheba. He came back. He was a solid third that day behind a couple really nice horses. Then in the Churchill Downs, it was interesting because he was just a little wide for most of the race, and he started moving up at the top of the lane, and then Antiquarian went really wide, and he pushed Hall of Fame out wide. They were out in like the 6 path. And then Hall of Fame came after. Remember, Mystic Dan cut the corner. He got that really nice trip along the rail. Hall of Fame came after Mystic Dan. He made it close, and then he faded. I do think that the cutback to about this mile and a 16th is what Hall of Fame wants most. I could really see him being a good dirt mile horse, cutting back there. So he's really interesting in the McCarthy barn, as you pointed out. I just look at him and I wonder, he's finished in front of Sierra Leone, but he's never really won a race with the good horse like a Nisos here. This would be that race that I was hoping for. Can you get a big race, a win against someone else where you've got a lot more foundation than this horse? I mean, since December, you've been running from a mile to a mile and 1/8. You should be really fit. And if 3 horses go and this horse can sit behind, to me, that's the one that I would use along with Nisos in some pick 4s and pick 5s, just because I think if the race sets up how we say, he could get the trip.
The elephant is in the room is the Lasix.
Yes.
I mean, this horse has run really well with Lasix and
not as good
so
off
much without it. And then the other thing is, just in general, as a horse player, for me, it's always tough to evaluate speed figures or buyer numbers, triple digit buyer numbers when they lose.
Sure.
It's a little counter, right?
Behind a horse who was really good, and did it inflate that a little bit?
Right, and that's one of the things you might have to consider, especially with Hall of Fame, with the Lasix. So there's some questions there, but I mean, we'll have to see what he looks like out there, at least physically, in the walking ring and then out on the track. But we'll see. I mean, this is really interesting, and it's a good jump off point for these 2 horses, especially if Hall of Fame is going to stay out there.
Yes, perfect. Right. I like the move. You were facing similar horses. You felt a little below them. You like this horse. You think he's got some talent. Can you shake something up? And then if he runs well, he can sit there and point to one of the Breeders' Cup races. I think ideally for him, the mile seems like it would be a really good spot. Hall of Fame taking on Nisos. How about Express Trade? Just worth mentioning. He won this race. He won this race back in 2021. That's just below being right on the page if you're looking at the past performances. And you can go back and see he won the San Diego back in 2021 before moving to the Pacific Classic. And his last victory was actually in the San Antonio, or in the Santa Anita Handicap in 2022, in March of 2022. So he has not won a race since 2022, but his most recent start was his best race since we saw him like back in the winner's circle and back running well in 2022. So
finished in front of Hit Show. I mean, that's got to be worth something, right?
Right. And Hit Show goes on and wins the Dubai World Cup coming out of that. So he's actually in like nice form again, and he's run well at Del Mar. He's like going to pass half the field in here, right? Because some of the horses that show speed and back up, he'll pass them at least. Just curious to see what he still has left as an 8-year-old. But there's a good performance from him in the big cap behind Locked. And he has run well at Del Mar here, which is sort of the opposite, you could say, of Miramati, who hasn't run as well at Del Mar. His better races have come at Santa Anita. So the grade 2 San Diego, Nisos will be less than even money. He's the heavy favorite in here. But both think that the 5 Hall of Fame is an interesting spot for this horse, and maybe a horse who's at least got some foundation. If Nisos were to stub his toe and not show up, for me, that would be the one I'd also use. The horse that I had the hardest time with, Barry, was the 7, Judge Miller, because that race was so bad last time. He got bumped at the start. He was in a little bit of traffic, but it wasn't like overwhelming. It just seemed like he didn't like the track, didn't fire. It was just put a line right through it. He's got some big races, but he's always kind of come off to me as kind of like a bully horse. Like when he's in soft spots, he can really pour it on. But the couple of times that we saw him step up into graded stakes races in the Californian and in the Gold Cup, those probably weren't even against horses this good. With Mr. Fisk winning and Reincarnate, and he was a little disappointing in those races. So I'm going back and forth with him because before his last race, he didn't have one buyer figure less than a 92. He had a really high floor.
He's another one that is questionable with out Lasix that
Yeah.
is you know, it
You
just
can see
stands
it
out.
right there.
It's
You see
very
with where you don't
hard
see
to
the black
ignore.
L's. You see if you're someone who's not like, it's in depth with the past performances, if you can see where the L's are next to the weight, and it'll tell you Lasix, and you can see. So he wins by 11 lengths with Lasix, then off Lasix second, off Lasix third, on Lasix wins again, off Lasix nowhere to be found. It might not be just that easy, but when you can see it right in front of your face like that in the pattern, it's hard not to notice or at least mention.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt he might be able to get it together, but I don't know if this is the right spot
Is
for it.
that finish third in this race, right? If he
Yeah.
does, like behind the two that we'd maybe spend a lot of time talking about, Nisos and maybe either an express train or a Hall of Fame, one of those horses, he still is going to have to show a little bit more to me to compete with those types.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the distance questions with that horse as well too.
Yeah,
Those, going a mile and eighth, mile and a quarter, he didn't really run
you're
that
right.
poorly, but he didn't run that great either. I think there's still some improvement there, but I just can't see this horse winning on Saturday. But I do think this horse will probably run okay.
Let's move to the Daisy Cutter. Race number 9 is another stakes race. This one is a 5-furlong turf sprint, $100,000 stakes race. These are fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. And what I thought was difficult when handicapping this race is you have like a lot of major contenders in here that haven't run in a while. The two I'm about to go coming into the Leonard Powell barn for the first time has not run since December. Now, we do have to mention that Leonard Powell, I first off, I just love playing the Leonard Powell horses. He's one of those
Yeah,
barns that he's
crafty.
he's never going to be overbet, and his horses always seem to outrun their odds or give you a better run for your money. They're always ready, and now he's showing us that he can get these horses ready to fire off a long layoff. He's very capable right here off of a long layoff. And this is actually a horse who's coming off of a layoff and who's moving into his barn for the first time. So you can see he's won 20% with horses off the long layoff. And then if you want to change it and adjust the settings here, the one to include his winner from the other day at Del Mar, when you look at the trainer changes, horses coming into his barn for the first time after a trainer switch, he's 7 for the last 33, winning at 21% with a 544 ROI because his horses don't get
Aren't
bet.
bet, right?
He just won with a 28-1 shot. He won with an 8-1 shot here. So you only have to win. He's got a 6-1 shot winner there. He's got another 8-1 shot winner that you can see and another 26-1 shot. So doesn't have to win as often when you're winning with big prices like that. And Ribbons was the horse that he just had win at Del Mar. Ribbons, who came over from Gulfstream Park and actually was stepping up a little bit in class from a high-level maiden claimer to a maiden special weight race, and he won really nicely. She won that 3-year-old filly, won for Leonard Powell. So he's certainly capable with horses like this, Barry. You've got Spicy Bug, who makes a lot of sense on paper, but we have not seen this mare for over a year now. She's coming up on almost a 14-month layoff, like 13 and a half months. So that's not easy. A horse like Uncorked has only been off a couple months, but she's kind of a tricky read because a lot of her better work has been going longer. We haven't seen her even run short since way back when she was in Australia, and that was in like 2021, 2022. Everything else from her recently has been way longer, and even down the hill is much different than a flat 5 furlongs at Del Mar. Those are horses that are going to take a pretty good amount of money in here. And they haven't run in a while. Even Pushiness, who's fast, hasn't run since April. So not an easy race. Pushiness really quick, Barry. Also has the speed to deal with of the two I'm about to go. Who are some of the horses you like in this one?
Well, the gamble for me in this race is whether or not you think, or I think, Pushiness is going to get into a speed duel.
Yeah.
If Pushiness can clear, I don't think they're going to catch that horse.
She could be really tough from out there on the cutback.
I mean,
really tough.
All indications seem like she's faster
Then the
than
two.
I'm about to go.
And it's
just
just
off the
really
jump.
those two, right? It does just seem like it's those two going. And if one of the two gets that jump, they could be pretty tough. And
Yeah.
I agree. On paper, it looks like the 10's faster.
Um,
What does
Now,
Timeform US
if
think?
they
Let's see
if
the
they do
projector.
kind of
And
go,
Timeform US agrees with
yeah,
you. They've got
yeah,
the 10 out front and they've got her winning. They think she clears the 2 and they think that she can hold on.
yeah, it's going to be
So,
tough. I mean, if somebody doesn't go head and head with that horse, she's going to be very, very tough. But if
and with
that
a
does
rider like
happen,
DeMuro, are
right,
you
he's
going to
going to
get that kind
send.
of a yeah, right,
He's going to
from well,
send. He's going to try anyway. Um, whether or not he gets there is another. But I'm pretty sure they're going to full send and try to get in front
yeah,
of pushing us. They might not be fast enough. They might end up being head and head, and that's when things kind of open up if they
yep.
do get heads up with each other. A horse in the 4, Ange and Ash, is very,
Yes.
very interesting.
Yes.
This horse likes the flat 5, 6 furlong type
Yep.
races. Down the hill, this horse is no good. And I hit this horse back in March
Yeah.
at 11 to 1.
On the
And
flat 6 furlongs.
yes, and I think this horse can get a good trip, but provided Pushiness doesn't just run off and clear this field. Um,
So yeah, so if you're looking for the horses, a version of this race, Pushiness is gone. So if you're playing pick 4s and pick 5s, I would agree you have to have the 10 on your tickets because the horse might be just quicker. But I'm not singling that horse because I do think in this field, with one or two of the others we mentioned, there could be a battle, especially if the 2 gets out of the gate and tries to go. This horse is on the ticket for me. Absolutely. Her last 2 5 furlong turf sprints were wins right here at Del Mar. Last 2 times she was over this course. And then, as you were pointing out, look at the other races going the flat 6 furlongs at Santa Anita. She wins in March. In December, she's 4th, but she's behind Queen Maxima in that
mhm.
race, who is really nice. She had won 5 in a row, including a couple graded stakes races. Look how strong this race was. Also, Shin Jihadi and Prancing Through Paris also came out of that race to win next out. 3 next out winners. And then the other race going the flat 6 furlongs, you see she's only beat by a neck at Santa Anita. She just didn't really like the downhill layout. And if you can eliminate those 6.5 races, that form looks a lot better.
Yeah, and getting back with her friends.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a comparable spot than the graded stake company she was in the Monrovia, and even the
Twice
misdirection,
against Queen
she was
Mexico.
outclassed. Right.
Yeah.
So this spot is a lot better, and the price is probably going to be right too. It's just a matter of how this race unfolds. The other horse that caught my attention was Chismosa, the 8.
Yep.
I think the class relief is real huge for this horse in this spot. Started the year out in the misdirection and just didn't run a step. And I don't think they were really trying to win that race anyway. Was favored in the next spot, the Desert Stormer, and got beat by Supershine that day. Didn't have the greatest of trips. It was a 3-horse field. Uh, and it's like, well, how do you figure they didn't get a good trip? There's only 3 horses, but the horse was just kind of wide and tried to
Yeah.
make a run and just didn't get there. Then is 40 to 1 on the dirt again, 49 to 1, and just doesn't run. I think, it got a good number in that race, but I just think this is a way better spot. Even if there isn't a speed duel, I think this horse is still going to sit a great trip.
Kismosa. And I like playing horses like this because people will look at first glance and be like, oh, 0 for 8 on the grass. This
Right.
horse isn't as
Yeah.
good. But you dive into the races individually, you can see the speed figures are very similar. Just has won a lot more on the dirt and probably faced a little tougher fields in some of those grass races that
Well,
she's
I
been in.
mean, on the dirt, this horse didn't run poorly behind Sweet Azteca.
And Copian last time out.
Right.
Like, did not run all that poorly, was not disgraced by those 2. So there's ability there with Kismosa. One that we didn't mention that's a little bit interesting to me for some of the same things we were talking about with Ange Nash. If you look at Granny Budgie, so down the hill on May 17th, facing a little tough group, but was only 9 to 2, didn't fire, had a little trouble. 2 starts back on the flat, runs really, really well and wins in April. Back in October, down the hill, not quite as good, but in March on the flat, wins. And then if you go back to when this horse was before even coming to the US, you could see a couple of the 6 furlong races at the straight 6 furlong distance. This horse ran really, really well. Not the horse I would bet to win, but if this is a race that you are using a few, and if you're playing this race like you think pushiness gets pushed, this would be a horse that I would use, because this is one of those horses that capitalizes if they go fast early. But she's a hard horse to trust or singleberry because she's probably going to be way out of it early on.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially on the grass, it's hard to
Make up
get a
that ground
trip like that. Yeah,
from the
especially in a
outside
short
too.
race. Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough. You never get a good trip with a closer from the outside like that. Although people like to bet them, um, I would, anecdotally think that it's not a great percentage.
Yeah. And what do you want to do with the 7 Spicy Bug off the long layoff? Because I generally don't. I'm not as concerned with horses off long layoffs in a sprint like this when you don't have to go as far. And she might be able to sit a good trip, but we're talking about now almost 14 months.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough read because the horse was running well before the break. I don't know what the injury was, but it had to be substantial for the horse to be out this long. Training well coming into this,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me. Like you said, if this was a long race, I would be a lot colder on this horse. But I mean, I'm sure this horse is going to look the part too.
Can she? Because I could see her being fresh, like popping the gate and then
And just
sitting like
getting in
third,
the mix. Yeah.
right? Like letting those like pushiness go and letting the 2 go. And then all of a sudden, maybe she's just sitting in a really nice spot. Um,
I mean, even the last race this horse ran in the
that was a
Intercontinental,
good
beat
field.
by Futures Now, who came
Yeah.
back to win last Saturday. Roses for Deborah, we know what that horse can do. Coffee
Yeah.
Maker is always showing up for Wesley Ward. So that
Yeah.
was a pretty good field.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take anything away from that horse, but
No,
I wouldn't rule it out. If this horse drifts up,
I
that's where
agree.
you gotta think about this horse
Like
walking.
about this price or up, I'm fine with. I just get worried that she's going to open up like 7-2 and then get caught
Right.
down a little bit, like 3-1, and she's in that mix. And then that's when you want to start trying to play against her. But if she's the opposite and she's almost double that price and she's 5 or 6-1, then all of a sudden, some of the concerns that you have are built into the price with
Right.
her. It's like the long layoff. So, race number 9, turf sprint, the Daisy Cutter. Barry and I both agree that it all really revolves around the 10. Can this horse clear from the outside pushiness? Some others that will be interesting if pushiness does get softened up a little bit. The 4, Anjan Ash, who's a very big price. The 7, we'll see what happens with Spicy Bug and how she's met. The 9 was also one that I mentioned, Granny Budgie, if you think that they're going to be going quick early on. But it'll all come down to the 2 push and the 10. Pushiness and the 2 coming into the Leonard Powell barn for the first time. I'm about to go. That's the 9th. Race number 10, Barry. It's a grade 1. We don't have a ton of proven multiple grade 1 winners in the field, but it's a really competitive group. If you told me Crazy Mason, Dr. Venkman, Hijazi, World Record, Roll On Big Joe, any of them won, it really wouldn't shock me. Even Mabognick really wouldn't shock me, who threw up 100 buyer speed figure last time out. And Sadler does a really good job with
that.
Cronus Racing, claiming horses just like this and then moving them into stakes races. So while you look through the field and maybe there isn't any of the top 1 or 2 sprinters in here, because you saw Bookham Dano and Bullakid and horses like that run last weekend. And I thought it's a really competitive race here.
Yeah, this is super competitive because there's enough speed and enough horses that like to run from off the pace to get some fireworks in this race.
Like the
I
1,
think.
you can make a case for the 1 if you think, hey, Hijazi
Pace
could
meltdown.
possibly go. The 5 is really fast. Big Joe wants to be very, very close and sit. Mabognick showed big speed last time out. And even the 2 outside horses, their best chances in this race is if they're really, really close to it early on.
Yeah, and that's why I'm giving Crazy Mason a pretty good shot here,
Yeah.
because they should be lining up. Even if let's say Dr. Venkman doesn't want any piece of that, which he probably won't, still coming over the top from
Yeah.
farther back might be the better move.
Yep.
Uh, the last time we saw Dr. Venkman was in the Kelly's Landing, and I just thought they didn't ride this horse the way they should have that day. They kind of let Roll on Big Joe
Hit the
go,
spot that he wanted.
which I don't understand, because this horse was running really, really fast, and he just kept going. They weren't. He wasn't stopping, and Venkman really didn't get a shot at it.
Yeah. He kind of had
This
to duck
time,
down to the inside, but he wasn't going to win that race. You could just
right?
see the way he was
I
handled.
think a lot of it had to do with his post position. He was drawn to the one, and just didn't really get out, and he was stuck. He was behind it.
Yep.
He finished up very well, and I gather this third race of the form cycle, he's going to run a lot better. Um,
And he loves
Hopefully
Del
they can.
Mar.
Yeah, I was just going to say that he's at his home track, where he likes it the best. I gather he's going to be tough. But man,
He
this
just
is
looks
this is
good on paper. Like he
he
looks like this
certainly
is a
does.
spot, third off the bench. You feel like if some of these horses that we talked about show speed, he might be able to get the jump on Crazy Mason. But I got to use the both of them, like we said, because I could see that happening. And I will probably, Barry, go back to using my buddy again, just because every time I've been thinking this is probably a little too much for him. He continues to
He keeps
fire,
winning. Yeah.
and he sit because what he does is he can sit and kind of turn it off for a little bit and then flip the switch back on and finish. And he's actually been really good at 6 furlongs too. He might have a little more finish here. This is to me reminds me of like with Hall of Fame. I love that they send this horse out here to this race where he's a contender. And hey, look, if he runs well here, we can keep him around in Southern California and try to point to the Breeders' Cup. And there's no monsters in this race. It's just a lot of competitive horse. Nobody scares you away from him.
Yeah.
I just worry that if there are 3 or 4 horses pushing each other, that he's just going to be working a little too hard early. But man, it seems like Umberto was doing a great job with him before, but it seems like Julian's really good on him because it's almost like he's patient on him and he just kind of sits, lets him get really comfortable, doesn't ask him all that much early, and then it gives him a little more late. Like it's like he
Well,
gets everything out of him.
the thing is, Roll on Big Joe, when he turns it off, he's still faster than 90% of the horses
Yeah, you're right.
he's running against.
Just
And then when he
naturally.
turns it back on, it's just enough to,
To
sprint
finish,
away from those
get that
types.
separation.
And that's, like you said, that was the ideal trip for this horse, and should be able to get it. I mean,
Sitting outside is a good draw for him too, of a lot of the other speeds, being outside of Hijazi and world record. And he could probably let world record go and try to sit off his flank the best that he can.
that's what I would think that is the plan, but you never know.
What do you do with the 5? Because we see some big races for him. Like he wins the Amsterdam. Then coming out of that, they step him up in the Jerkins. He's overmatched. There were a couple times when I've watched his races that I've been a little disappointed or wanted
No,
more.
thank you. That's
Right.
what
And
I
on,
figured.
paper, like I feel
Looks
like I
great on
wanted to.
paper.
Yeah. And I thought like, when I looked at this race right off the bat, before even diving into any charts, any replays, anything, I was like, okay, this horse will be a player. And then you watched his race and he went really fast, but it was such a weird race in the Aristides because he was battling with Durante early on. And then Durante dropped back and came on again and passed him, which I don't really like seeing. When they
No.
went those fractions, when races go like that too, it's sort of difficult. Yeah, I don't really know if he wants to sit off all that much. So for all of that, Barry, I'm worried that he's going to be just way too short of a price for what I would like to play him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he'll get cooked up front because he really hasn't been showing the speed that would win this kind of race. I mean, it's going to be tough. If he shakes loose, maybe, but I don't think that's going to happen. Jazzy seems to be faster, and I think
Yeah.
if he's headed, he's just going to stop.
So this was one of Baffert's really highly regarded horses. They paid $3.5 million for him. He was third in the American Pharoah as a 2-year-old. Then as a 3-year-old, he only ran one race trying to get him kind of Derby qualified. That was in the San Felipe. And when you look back at that race now, it's like, wow, he actually was in a pretty tough San Felipe behind two horses that passed away. Practical Move and Go Rocket Ride, two horses that were very good and had some freak accidents later on in the year. So I wasn't surprised to see Hijazi run exactly like he ran last time, where he was sitting second, he kind of moved up, and then he got a little tired late. You're not used to that with Baffert horses because he generally gets the horses so ready to fire. But this horse was coming off almost a 1.5 year layoff. So
Yeah.
he did really need that last race. And I would not be shocked to see him run well. It's just he's been a
but
horse that
where's
doesn't
he gonna
mind settling. Yeah,
Where's
right?
he gonna go? Like, as a 5-year-old, is he really gonna improve all that much off that
No,
99?
no,
I
you're
don't
right.
think
Is he going to
so.
maybe regress off of
Unless
it?
he gets a perfect trip, which he's not gonna get. So I just think it's kind of a no-win situation, and he's kind of the sacrificial lamb here with world record because they have kind of similar resumes. You know, they
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
you're
beat up
right.
on lesser horses a little bit. Um,
They do feel like a similar kind of horse that
yeah.
have been able to kind of inflate their reputation maybe and some of their figures in easier spots. But when they've had to face tough company, kind of like what was the guy like the first one on Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
Oh, it's
Class
Glass
Joe,
Joe.
right? Kind of a little bit like that, right? Like when you get punched, you're down
I
right away.
I call them like 4A horses
Yeah,
because,
right.
like
Like baseball,
they're
right?
not ready for the big, yeah, exactly. They're not ready for the big leagues. They're not
But they're better
as
than
bad
Triple
as
A.
AAA, right.
But
They're
there's that they're in no man's
they're
land. They're in that in between
exactly.
spot where you're up and you're back down. And maybe you could catch the right field or the right race where, as you pointed out, if a couple of these other horses want to sit back a little and at 6 furlongs, world record can go, sure, there could be a version of this race where he wins. But for mine and Barry's money at a short price, I'll look a little elsewhere in a competitive race because I really wouldn't be shocked if any of the 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6, the rest would, for me personally, would probably be a little more surprising. Mababnik, not like a huge shock, but I think those are the ones that I feel like are kind of the most proven, the classier. And the 2 down to the inside could get really good trips. Those are the ones that we started with, Crazy Mason and Dr. Venkman. I have to have them in all my pick 4s and pick 5s just because I think they're both going to get the setup and they both will come running. Barry, let's finish this thing up, my friend. Race number 11. Optional 40, first level allowance race to close it out, going a mile on the turf course here. We do have some scratches early on. The 7 Muscled is out. 12 and 13 are listed as out. You have Suchet, I believe was the name of an actor who played Detective Poirot for a while. And this is a horse. I just looking at this horse in this spot, I take a second glance. Sadler with a new horse like this, very good with new acquisitions, brings this one in. You don't have a crazy long layoff for this horse either. Raced a couple months ago in May. Should be able to sit a pretty nice trip down on the inside. I think it's solid in this spot because there's not like it's another race that's a tough race to close out with because Adios Cole is going to be a top player in here. And just looking at the morning line, Barry, a horse like Flyover, who's a Calbred who has been good in 2 starts, will definitely have to step up or face other speed, I think, in this group too. So those are 2 that are some of the shorter prices in here, but I think you can make a case for some of the bigger prices or just some bigger prices in this race. Who do you start with?
Yeah, I would start with the number 9, A Day to Remember.
Yep.
I think this horse on the stretch out will probably benefit a lot from stretching out on the turf
Yep.
and might get an ideal trip kind of right behind the leaders here. Like Carver's probably going to go. The outside horses are probably going to go.
I think so too.
Um, and, Flyover has a lot of speed. And I think this horse can follow. Even Miracle Mark might
Wants to
even
be
get
close.
involved.
And you have
It,
Rexford stretching out
yep.
from sprint races too. I wouldn't be shocked to see him sitting close. He's coming out of some
Well,
races where they've been going really fast early on.
Rexford, I actually like a little bit because of the fact this horse has run at a mile before, came off
Yeah.
the pace in those races,
Can he sit a nice
finished
trip?
second. I think he could sit a nice trip, especially off that last one, on the dirt, going back to the turf. Might, at a price, you got to give a horse like that a shot. Same thing with the one.
Oh yeah.
Just off competition alone, you would think that
Yep.
this horse is going to be competitive in this spot. But
Yep.
I think, at least as far as upside goes, I think A Day to Remember is kind of sitting in that sweet spot, ready to kind of break through.
Completely agree. If you look at this horse is bred beautifully too. He's a 4-year-old son of American Pharaoh. His dam was a horse named Kindle. So this is her form. She was really good. She was only out of the exacta twice in her 11 starts. She was generally more sprinting on the turf, but when you look at the siblings, she had a full Palazzi who's very good going long. Palazzi is long on the turf and long on the synthetic, is a multiple graded stakes winner. You can see won the grade 2 Eclipse at Woodbine on the synthetic, won the Singspiel going 1.25 miles on the turf. This horse can run all day long. So when you're thinking about a horse like A Day to Remember, who has already shown us natural early speed and may have been winning, like that 5 furlong race is not what this horse wants to do. The 6 furlongs, you're starting to get there now. And look at this horse's overall form. You've got a race in July of 2023, then a full year off. Shows back up off a full year layoff and runs really well. Exactly how you would expect a horse to run off the layoff, though. Just a little bit short. Then, after that race, didn't get to run again until April of the next year. Showed back up in the race where you feel like he'd probably be a little short. And he was a little bit short. And then when he got the longest distance that he's ever had, he sat a nice trip. He beat a couple of his rivals, one of his rivals in Cuban Confusion. And all of 3 of the horses that he beat came back to win their next start. It was a small field, but it's a very live field, as we've seen them all come back to win. So, yeah, he was the horse that I had right on top. And you started with him too, Perry. That's a day to remember, who will both be closing out exotics and hoping to get the 9 home. The 1, absolutely. We both mentioned. What about you talked a little bit about the 4 too, Rexford.
Yeah,
Stretching out,
I think
sitting the good
Rexford
trip.
has a shot. Especially, I think this horse is going to get dismissed. People will tend to think that this horse is going to be just a sprinter and not be able to be competitive in this spot. But if you look at speed figures and everything, I know the buyers on the turf are a little shaky, but they're all being used in conjunction with each other.
Yeah,
So if you kind of look at it that way, this horse fits and
absolutely.
has run competitively in spots like this. Just hasn't been winning. I don't know if the shakeup and the stretch out might be the difference in this race, because it's just wide open.
It
I mean, all
really
these
is.
horses kind of look the same.
They do.
It probably is kind of a combination of a rider's race and who's feeling good at the time.
The one that we didn't mention a lot that I might even throw in some spots is the 11. You were hitting too. I hope I'm a little worried about the trip because this horse has showed some speed, but he's just a wild card in this type of a race where I'm sort of looking for like a new face or something new to grab onto. He puts the blinkers on. He comes into the Blacker barn that's had a really nice year and done well with horses just like this. And his last 3 races in a row are not bad over at Tampa. So if he's ready to fire and he can work out a trip, I think class-wise, he's not far off this group. That 86 buyer 2 starts back, that puts him right in the mix with a buyer par for this race, which is 89. You can see up on the top, and they show it a lot of times in the past performances where you see your buyer pars. So, Barry,
Well, sometimes a change of scenery makes the difference.
That's the key,
I mean,
right?
this is one of those kind of races where a simple change like that could make or break this entire race. I know the post position isn't the greatest, but you got to give this horse a shot. I mean, most of
Showing
the
some
time, at least,
versatility too.
exactly. Not only that, but at least over the past few years, the East Coast horses have been better on the turf. I
Yep.
think that's changing a little bit, but this field in particular isn't all that strong.
And where I think it might still stay the case is it at the levels like this. So the top tier horses sometimes can compete, but for the West Coast horses, we don't have as many races like Kansas Cat is coming out of. The first level allowance, the second level allowance, those high level allowance grass races like you'll see at
we get those
Gulfstream,
50,
at Tampa.
Starter
right?
races. Yeah.
Keeneland. You see races like this way more often just because there's more horses of this quality. So I always think in these levels, like the above the claiming ranks, below the stakes ranks, the horses that ship out west, that's the ones that kind of feast. Because
That's
like
a
you
good
said,
point.
they've been facing just tougher horses throughout. Kansas Cat will be on some closeout tickets for me. But man, like going through the sequence, we've got some quality with Nisos. We've got a tricky 2-year-old race to start. We've got a really good betting race in the Bing Crosby where you could use 4 or 5 different horses in pick 4s or pick 5s. And then this is not an easy race to close out. Give it up to Del Mar so far. We hope it continues, but like the cards have been fantastic early on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is no exception. I think this is going to be an excellent card as far as prices, competitive racing. I mean, this last race is a doozy.
So one thing I do want to mention before we get out of here, and I want you to plug the Notorious OTB. We have these contests that you and I talked a little bit about last year, and we'll do 1 or 2 of them coming up when we get an opportunity to do so. They're the Fun in the Sun tournaments that you can play at ExpressBet. And why I love these contests, they're affordable, cost you $125 to enter. $25 is the entry fee, and the $100 you're going to bet. You have to bet 10 wagers, $10 a piece. It's the last 5 races from Saratoga, and then it's the first 5 races from Del Mar every single Saturday. So this is a really fun, affordable contest. It is something that anyone can play because it only costs you $125 to get in. And even if you don't win in the contest, Barry, what's cool is the money that you're betting on your ExpressBet account, it just stays right there. So if you're betting $10 to win on the horse, he's 5-1, your money is going to sit right there. Even if you don't make it to the final week or you're not one of the top 5, you're keeping everything that you have right on your account. You can bet it. And then every week, 5 people make it to the last final table, sort of like an NHC setup, and like a mini tournament all throughout the summer based on Saratoga and Del Mar, which is the races that we're all looking at already. So this is one of my favorites, Barry, because I'm not as good of a bettor or a contest player in the like the BCBC types where you can bet like trifectas and stuff like that, because I don't really bet as much that way. But on a good day that I have or that you have, we can beat anybody when it just comes to picking win horses, right?
Oh
With your
yeah.
ROI, like that's where the playing field is even. That's why I like the NHC format, because it doesn't matter how much you're betting. I have a tough time betting $100 trifecta, or because that's not how I play, right? I'm not used to doing that. It's a little different, but I'm looking for prices all the time. So you and I think a lot of players can have a real opportunity in a tournament like this. Fun in the Sun. We're having a lot of fun right now, Barry. Talk to us about Notorious OTB. What do you guys have coming up this
Yeah.
week?
We actually did a $100 budget podcast for Saratoga on Saturday, Jim Dandy Day, which is a pretty nice card too.
Yeah.
So you can check us out over there. We got actually doing best bets at Saratoga tomorrow morning. So yeah, you can check us out every day. We do things a little bit different over there, but we have a lot of fun, and yeah, we get some winners too. So it's a good time.
And if you're a fan of interviews, we have a new podcast series that we started that's on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube, or you can check it out anywhere you get your podcasts. Off the Track, not any gambling. It's not about specific horses. It's stories about some of the people and the names that you might know. So far, we've had Jason Beam, Angela Herman, Matt Dinnerman, Andy B. and Cone, and
all
Katie
great
Davis.
episodes, by the way.
Yeah,
All great.
really cool. And the last couple for me were fun because I've said hello to Andy once, and I've never met Katie Davis before the conversation. So getting to chat with the both of them for like 45 minutes and an hour was a lot of fun. Great questions from them. And fingers crossed, it looks like we've got Mark Cassie, Mr. 4000, set up for next week. That should be a fun one. And Billy Koch from Little Red Feather talk about Del Mar, Little Red Feather, all the fun stuff they have down there at Del Mar going on. And I think his son was just won an award. His son was in the show, Billy Koch's son, that was on Netflix about
Oh,
the
wow.
Menendez brothers.
Oh,
That
wow.
a few months ago, his son was incredible. I think his name is Cooper. He won a big award acting. I'm curious to ask Billy a little bit about that too, because I was like, oh my, I love the show. It was
Yeah.
really well done. And his son, you know how when you can sense someone's good and then they're about to blow up,
Yep.
he's gonna get like 3 or 4 roles in the next year in like big movies and shows, and you're gonna be like, oh, this guy's having a moment.
See,
Like
Gino's like,
he's
I know that guy.
yeah, I'm like that. I love when you can catch him before, right? And you're like, I remember when they were starting out, when I caught him on a fun show. So, Barry, man, always a blast. I've told you before, when you and I don't talk for a week, I'm so used to chatting with you all the
Seems
time.
like
It's like
forever.
I miss you. I feel like I hadn't spoke to you in like months. So, glad that you had a nice time at Saratoga. You got to celebrate Chuck, and it was nice for the last week or so hearing some more Chuck stories and everyone getting a chance to kind of remember him and talk some Saratoga. And so I was happy that you got the chance to go over there, buddy. And always look forward to chatting with you, my friend. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, appreciate it, my man. Had a great time up at Saratoga. Might be going back for the Travers. We'll see, but yeah, it's always lovely going up there and seeing all the people and the racing and the food. Everything is great, man.
We always love to hear from you out there too. So if you're playing Del Mar this weekend, if you've looked at some of these races that we're talking about, let us know if you agree with us in some, or maybe you're looking in different directions. Good luck playing the races this weekend, and check out DRF AI at chat.drf.com.